Welcome to Woodward Wings. I am just Satawa, and I'm with my man Flannel Sam, and we are here. And trying to keep the vibes as high as possible for the second straight collapse for the Detroit Red Wings in March, as they are going to miss the playoffs again, making it 9 years in a row. And let's start there. Just the play down the stretch. You didn't get it from your key contributors. You didn't have enough depth to compete with the East. Flannel, how are you feeling about this collapse, man?
It's the least acceptable one of them all, because you could even go back to a couple of years ago, because a couple of years ago, obviously, you knew that they weren't going to do anything, even though technically they were in it at some point. That Ottawa home and home kind of doomed them, but that's okay. That's their first year really winning anything, not being just a bottom of the barrel team. And even last year, even though I was very upset with the stretch that they had, where at one point in a 20-game stretch they went 5-13-2, but at least they rebounded with some wins at the end of the year and got to 91 points and actually had more wins than the Capitals. This year was a regression all across the board. This year, the Red Wings are in actual danger of finishing this season with less points than they did 2 years ago. And that's where this one just burns the most, because it's the first real regression. It's the first time where I think Steve Yzerman and the entire Red Wings organization really has to get back to the drawing board and kind of maybe tweak their philosophy a little bit.
You're looking at a possible top 10 pick right now. I'm looking at the point standings, with how tough our schedule is, if we don't pick up any more points, which we shouldn't at this point, we should honestly just ride for the better draft pick. There are only a handful of teams that are like way out of it behind us. We're talking the Blackhawks, the Predators, and San Jose. Other than that, we are like in that same category as Anaheim, Seattle, Utah. Utah's way in front of us, actually.
Yeah.
So we're talking about being a lottery team after being seconds away from making the playoffs last year. And I think that the Steve Yzerman talk has been overblown. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to have some criticism thrown his way. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to have the seat turned up a little bit. I'm not saying it's hot, but it's lukewarm. The seat's lukewarm right now. He's got to go into this offseason and he's got to make meaningful additions to this roster to solve what we know are the issues: the 5-on-5 scoring, the PK, and the defense.
Yeah, there's and that's the thing with Steve Yzerman. There's unfortunately so many signings that you can look at that have just been absolute flops, like Justin Holl, like Jeff Petrie, like Vladimir Tarasenko, Eric Gustafson. I would even say with the way JT Compher played, he took a step back. He was not good this year. And even guys like Rasmussen and Bergeron, who weren't Stevie Y acquisitions, but they're guys that Stevie Y kept, really disappointed in a lot of ways. But we have seen Steve Yzerman, and it's something that people forget, and I don't blame them because they're not here anymore. Even if the only thing that the Red Wings really do, which I'm not advocating for, but who knows, if they can get a Perron-like signing and a Gostisbehere-like signing, that's something that Steve Yzerman has shown that he's capable of doing. And
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. It's just so
I get
ironic. We're asking for the same guys who we had here.
I know.
A season ago and refused to sign back for worse replacements. But I agree with you to an extent. I just think that we need to be shooting a little bit more for the fences. We have
we'll
so
talk
many
about
guys.
that more, I promise.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. 100%. But let's go back to the actual season, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of positives to go through, a lot of negatives to go through, and we're gonna hit it all. So let's start off with the negatives. Honestly, I want to feel better for the rest of the episode. So let's get this out of the way. So obviously, let's go through the bad free agent signings. That is an obvious negative that this team had to go through this season. Compher didn't play up to his standard. Kopp got hurt, which can't blame him. He was playing great. Hall is a dud. Gustafson, kind of a dud. He played well at some points in the season, but more dud than not. Lyon really took a big step back. I thought there might be a chance that we might offer him another bridge contract, but he really took a step back, which I thought was interesting. I didn't expect a lot from him. I expected Talbot to be the one going forward, and he was. But Lyon really did not look good when he was in there and wasn't hot. When he's hot, he is unbelievable. But when was not hot, he was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, and Vladimir Tarasenko was another one. Might be not the worst of them all, but certainly the one that produced the least for our expectations, because I think it was almost universally regarded as, oh, Tarasenko, that was a great signing. Did you see what he did at the end of the year for Florida? But at the end of the day, Tarasenko was terrible. He's completely, at least for what the Red Wings were asking for him, just cooked. He's done.
Yeah, he has no tread on the tires. It's obvious about that. He just does not move laterally as well as he used to, and I think that's a lot of where his skating was his advantage, was the way that he could make those quick cuts and move to the inside of the outside and be very difficult to defend for defenders. Now he is more stiff. He can't find those open spaces, and when he does, he's not quick enough to capitalize on them. And it really handcuffs the Red Wings moving forward. And we'll talk more about that later, because there's going to have to be some trades to open up some cap space to really make the high-level moves that you are hoping that they make this offseason to bolster this roster. Because I do agree with what Sean Belizean was saying on Big D yesterday. He was spitting straight facts. I agreed with almost everything he said. There is no man on this team. There is no dude. There is like right now, like the closest you have to it is Raymond and Kat, but they both have flaws in their game right now. And so you need that dude.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because it goes into one of the other negatives of the season. And unfortunately, I've got to put a couple of guys on the stand that really, maybe it's unfair, maybe not the reason why the Red Wings are in the position, but they're not the dudes. And I think they've proven that this year. And it goes back to how dependent that the Red Wings were on the power play. I've got some numbers right now that are going to blow a lot of minds, and they're actually very, very depressing. I'll start with the Red Wings as a whole. 4th in the NHL in power play percentage, 24th in goals scored per game. Obviously you can see it, but that's a stat that tells you all you need to know, that they were a really a terrible 5-on-5 team. But it goes, and you were saying this in the last episode, it's every single line. And you have to start with the dudes. Lucas Raymond, tied for 3rd in the NHL in power play points with 36. Unbelievable. Amazing. We love that. Tied for 28th in the NHL in total points. He has 39 5-on-5 points this season. That's not good enough. That's actually closer to mid than great, honestly. Way closer to mid than great.
Yeah, I agree. There was this stretch after the Four Nations, which I think we all expected Lucas Raymond to take that really good performance that he had over that tournament and to take it into the second half of the season, because he was already playing great and continued to keep playing great. But he took 2 steps forward this season and 1 step back, in my opinion. He was really showing that top 10 winger class, that he was really, really cooking, and that he could take over games with every tool that he has in his tool bag. But then it feels like a couple of those tools he lost over the trip back from the Four Nations face-off, and he wasn't up to par. There was times where, like in that last Montreal game, there was a few minutes in the end of the game where he really was going at it, and he was taking over the game, and he was really making a bunch of plays. But that's what I expect from him on a game-to-game basis, not just every once in every couple games. Like, he's a good enough player where that's what we need to expect. And that's what I expect from him next year. I expect him to be more of a prolific goal scorer. Though there was a lot of times down the stretch where I didn't see that killer instinct goal scoring mentality that I've seen in the past from him. Last year, a lot of times he was able to score some huge goals down the stretch with big moments, and that just wasn't the case this year. He was not scoring big moment goals. And what sticks out to me the most is the breakaway to put Montreal away.
Yeah, that was really, and I don't want to say a microcosm of it was a microcosm of post Four Nations Lucas Raymond, because he still had a good year. But when you look at it, he's probably not going to finish as a point a game. He's dropped below that. Can't have that happen. He's probably not going to finish with 30 goals, which nobody would have expected that. Even though his assist totals went way up, you need him to at least get 30 goals, at least. And this season will tell you that overall, he was a power play merchant. That's what the numbers tell you. That's what a lot of what this season tells you. This season tells you as a whole, honestly, because I want to get to the PK as well. When the going gets tough, the Red Wings just crumble. When they are down a man, they're one of the worst PK teams in NHL history. 69.5% is disgusting. It's atrocious. It's awful. It's in the season before, they were almost 80%. That drop off is just inexcusable. And even when we're talking about when it comes to offensively, really the only thing they did well this season was on the power play. When you got a man advantage, when you're not dealing with the level of defense that you have to deal with 5-on-5, they're great. Lucas Raymond's great. Dylan Larkin's great. But on 5-on-5, they were awful. And that's, you just can't have that. And the fact that they took such a step back in both of those departments as opposed to last year when they were not a bad 5-on-5 scoring team and they were not a bad PK, it's perplexing.
I mean, let's take a look at the optics of that for a second, though, Flannel. Like, we lost David Perron, a very strong penalty killer, and we replaced him with Vladimir Tarasenko, who doesn't even play on the PK. We took Shane Gostisbehere, who wasn't a great penalty killer, but he was, let's go league average.
Sure.
And we replaced him with, Gustafsson and Hall. And Wallman was in that Gostisbehere category. Like, we're talking about 3 net negatives that hurt your PK and your 5-on-5 scoring. Like, we're talking about losing like huge negatives from those players. And I don't think that that's truly been realized how big of the production drop off it was. Like, I know Gostisbehere and Wallman are known for being offensive defensemen, but they're better defensive defensemen than Gustafsson and Hall.
For sure.
And so now we're going into this offseason, and we need to take the 2 steps forward and recoup from those losses.
Yep.
And it's going to be a very interesting offseason on actually being able to do that. And that's why re-signing good players is such a critical thing to teams' foundations. Like, there's times where, you have to get rid of a star for cap purposes, but I don't think last year had to be that year.
Well, and that's where the onus is on Steve. That's where Steve Yzerman failed. That's where everybody that he brought in, besides for like Cam Talbot, he's better than James Reimer, for example. That actually is going to turn out to be an okay signing. But letting Perron walk, which, by the way, Perron's not doing anything this year, letting Gostisbehere walk, and he is doing something this year, and bringing in Tarasenko and having Justin Holl, who was a healthy scratch for most of the year, actually playing damn near the whole year, and Eric Gustafsson, that is going to do just horrors to your PK. And just one more thing that I want to mention when it comes to the power play merchant thing, which the Red Wings certainly have to answer for that allegation next year. I want to talk about Dylan Larkin, because his overall production took a dip. Last 2 seasons, he was a point-a-game guy exactly. This year, he's probably going to finish with less than 70, which is certainly not acceptable. But he's another one this season, tied for 9th in the NHL in power play goals at 13, which is phenomenal. Tied for 41st in the NHL in total goals at 29. He doesn't even have 30 with 13 power play goals. That's just, and this isn't me saying you got to ship Dylan Larkin out of town. It's just that there are a lot of failures on this team. Obviously, we talked about the free agents. We talked about the PK and whatnot, but you needed more from your Raymonds and your Larkins than you got in the 5-on-5. And that's why we're going to talk about, and that's why Sean Baligian so eloquently talked about on BDE, we don't have that guy right now, unfortunately. And we thought maybe we did with Raymond, but now not so sure.
Yeah, the Raymond definitely has to take a step to be considered the guy. And in terms of Dylan Larkin, and this is a tough category for me because I love Dylan Larkin and I believe in Dylan Larkin, but there has been something off since the Four Nations. I don't know if he is hurt or if he is unsure if how he's playing because of the third line mate that's just been switching on him for the entire second half of the season. I don't know what factor plays into this, but the fact is he needs to be more productive. The fact that we have gone on these losing streaks, it's like he hasn't even been playing. It's like it was last season when we went on the huge losing streak. Like he went 5 games without a point in the middle of March. When you're the captain of a team, you can't do that. You are the leader of the team. You're on the first line. And that's why I think that this just reinforces the fact that, like, we need a dude.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been the one, like, Dylan Larkin is a 1C. He can lead a team to a championship as a captain and as a first-line center. But my caveat was always he will not be the best offensive player on the team. He will be the third or the fourth, easily. It will not even be close. And that's where the Wings are right now. Dylan Larkin is still one of your best offensive players, and he can't be. It's the same reason why Ben Sherratt can't be on your first line.
Absolutely.
He's just not good enough. And it's different because Larkin is good enough to be on the first line, but he's not good enough to be your team's scoring, like, threat. And, like, that needs to be someone who is constantly putting up 30, 40 goals a year, 90 points, 100 points. Like, we're talking about a dude. And that's where you need to start exploring the options that we're going to talk about later. That how are you going to get there? What are you going to trade? Who are you willing to give up? Because you're going to have to, like, we're going to have to start, like I know everyone's in love with the farm system. If they trade ASP, I might jump off a bridge. But, like, he's on the table. Like, I mean, I hate to say it. He's on the table right now. Like, there's, like, Danielson's on the table.
100%.
Mazur's on the table. Like, all of these
100%
guys, like, no one is safe. Like, this offseason, there's going to be big moves. If not, they're going to be sitting out of the playoffs again. You can't just roll into another year with youth and expect they're going to figure it out on the fly. They're going to do it. Like, we're going to add 6 more rookies to this team, and all of a sudden they're going to make the playoffs. Like, no, that's not how it's going to work. You're seeing the limitations that Raymond and Casper have because of their body size. They're not big enough to play in the NHL yet. They're really good players, and they're really talented. That's why they're in the NHL, but they're not big enough yet. That's why your prime starts when you hit 25 in the NHL.
And that's why, and you mentioned untouchables. There are none. The only caveat I will give, which is a caveat that can't be realized, is if you could guarantee me that ASP next year turns into rookie Lane Hudson, he's untouchable, but obviously that's a huge if, and Lane Hudson had one of the best rookie offensive defenseman seasons I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He has Makarian type of assist numbers.
Yep.
Quinn Hughes level assist numbers, but that's as big of a reason, along with Nick Suzuki proving to be a bona fide stud 1C, that the Canadians are where they are and the Red Wings aren't. They're dudes, you know about them. With ours, and this is where I get a little bit uncomfortable, because I'm not saying that Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond are the reason why the Red Wings are where they are. They're your best players, with DeBrincat being included as well, and Mo Seider. It's just that you're asking too much of them. They might not have that other level that is needed for this team. Yes,
100%. And how you take the pressure off is by bringing in a guy who's done it and who can do it and who's been there, who's been in the playoffs, who has that type of experience, who's been on a team, who's won the President's Trophy, who has put up over 100 points and has been clearly in the playoffs for the entire season and have never been teetering on this cusp that the Red Wings can't get over. And so when you really look up and down the roster, and I went out this morning, I totally nerded out. I went on shout out Puckpedia, one of the best hockey websites there is out there. They have this thing, it's called Puck GM. And you can look at your roster for the next year, and you can see, like, how much cap space you have, who you have to re-sign, and if you can sign free agents, you can make trades. And I was just screwing around with it, trying to see what the Red Wings offseason could look like. And the first thing that I think that is intriguing is the fact that you're going to have to get rid of one of the big salaries on this team, whether that's JT Confer, whether that's Vladimir Tarasenko, or whether that's Justin Hall. You need one of those around $3 million in cap space to make everything work this offseason, because you're going to want to bring in a stud offensive player. You're going to want to bring a pretty solid defender in, and then you're going to have to re-sign some guys and hopefully bring over Dimitrikov. I can never say his name. the Russian prospect that we have in the KHL, who is absolutely killing it and putting up some of the best numbers in KHL history for a U20 player. Same with the guy from the Montreal Canadiens, who I'm blanking on right now. Sean would be so
It's
disappointed in
okay.
me.
It's okay.
But so the reason why I want to get rid of JT Compher, because I think he has the most value of the bunch. And I think that a team that is kind of looking for a 3C, a 2C would be willing to make a deal for him. And what this opens up for you, because you're bringing up Danielson next year. And by the track that Yzerman has showed you with all his prospects, he likes to take 2 years on each guy, and so a year in the AHL and then a year in the NHL. So Danielson just had his year in the AHL. He looked very good, especially the second half after he got comfortable. He may not start the season in NHL, but he's going to get there eventually. Your issue now is you have a bog down of centers. You have a lot of centers on your roster, and unfortunately, I don't think JT Compher is going to be better than what Danielson will give you. I personally. And so I think if you give a draft pick with Compher, you ship him off for future considerations. You don't even have to try to get anything back from him. You're just trying to lose the money. You lose the money. You set yourself up with around $28 million in cap space. It gives you enough money to sign Soderblom and Johansson, which I think both of them are going to net around 2.5 million, 3 million, that range. Not anything too hefty. 2 to 3 year deals to give them another chance to get a big contract after they develop a little more. Where I'm going with this Compher deal is you need to set up the ability to pay Marner whatever he wants. If he wants 14 million and to be the highest paid player in the NHL, you got to give it to him. You're at the point where you don't have the choice.
Yeah. And honestly, I always liked Mitch Marner more than some, because as a Red Wings fan, you're supposed to hate every Maple Leaf, but I respect his game. Obviously, he's a multiple 90-point guy. And at this point, and what Mitch Marner would do is, we talk about, obviously we know Mitch Marner would be your best offensive player. That would actually allow, I think, a situation where Dylan Larkin could thrive as the 1C, because not all 1Cs are created equal. They don't all have to be Connor McDavid or a Nate McKinnon. They can be...
Ryan O'Reilly is one of the most known 1Cs in the entire league, and he has no offensive numbers. He just wins every faceoff he takes. He blocks shots. He plays great PK. Like, there are so many facets of hockey that go into the 1C debate that's where people just want to go with the points thing, and I don't subscribe to that. I look at the whole picture. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's a perfect encapsulation of it all, because you look at, if you gave me a first line, and this is interesting because Mitch Marner would be a free agent acquisition. If you could somehow swing a first line of Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, and Mitch Marner, then we're cooking. Then we're talking about the Red Wings comfortably being in the playoffs. We're talking about them being a threat to win a round or two. And I understand that Mitch Marner is going to make probably $14 million a year, but at the end of the day, this is the time period the Red Wings are in, to kind of copy Sean Baligian's soliloquy, but he said it so well. This is the time period the Red Wings are in, where they did regress, where there isn't that linear production that you always saw, where you don't know if Larkin or Raymond are dudes like that. I would suspect they're probably closer to not than are. But we know that with Mitch Marner. We know that Mitch Marner is one of the best wingers in the NHL. We know that he's been extremely productive on very good Toronto Maple Leafs teams that are always great regular season but just choke in the playoffs. But right now, sign me up. Give me Mitch Marner. Inject it into my veins. This is what the Red Wings need. This is the time to be bold. If you want to say last year wasn't the time to be bold, fine. You had that linear production. This year, this has to be not a come to Jesus moment, but kind of. They might finish the season with 12 points worse than last year. That is so far beyond unacceptable that things have to be shooken up.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think that last year they were banking on the fact that Lucas Raymond would make the big jump that he did make in the beginning of the season. It just wasn't sustainable. And I think that at this point, you need to be going on consistent, sustainable options. You need to know that these players are going to be able to be net positives on your roster. There's no more signing the Justin Halls or the Vladimir Tarasenkos. Like at this point in where this rebuild is, like we are at a tipping point where we're going to go back and do another rebuild in the next 2 years, or we're going to figure it out and we're going to finish this rebuild and we're going to be a Stanley Cup contender. There's no option between the two. And that's going to be defined by these signings in this offseason. And like you said, if you're talking about a line with Marner, Raymond, and Larkin, like I think that allows Raymond to be an easy 95-point guy. We're talking Larkin to be an 85-point guy at least. Like I'm that's a big jump for me just by putting Marner on their line. It takes the pressure away from them as well. Like you're seeing the way that the defense is able to construct around Raymond and Larkin when they were playing together because they didn't have that third threat, like that real threat on their wing to help them take the pressure off, and that really hurt them. And you add one of the best playmakers in the entire NHL on that line, and they're all going to start eating. And Marner's goal total might go up because he's not going to be playing with Austin Matthews anymore, who's a shoot-first guy. He's been playing with Lucas Raymond, who's a beautiful, honestly, a better passer than
for sure,
Austin Matthews.
For sure. And if that's the line that you run out there, the Larkin, Raymond, and Marner line, I'm going to keep repeating it because it sounds so beautiful. That's 275 combined points from your first line. I think easy. With what Mitch Marner we know he is, he's like 90 points in his sleep. With Raymond having less responsibility and getting to he would get to pass the puck to Mitch Marner. I mean, how many more? He already took a huge leap as a distributor. What more put a better player around him? And then Dylan Larkin, like I said, this is the situation where he could be a 1C and thrive. If you give him the line, if you give him the elite talent around him, that's the key to unlocking Dylan Larkin. And that's what is so unfortunate, because even though the last couple of years Dylan Larkin was much more productive than this year, was a point-a-game guy for real, we've never really seen quite what he could do, quite what his ceiling could be on a large scale, because there just has not been enough around him. And when I say that, when I really talk through it out loud, I feel like maybe I have been a little bit too hard on Dylan Larkin. It's not his fault. It's the burden that is placed upon him. He's not Connor McDavid or Nate McKinnon, but he doesn't have to be.
No, he doesn't. And I think that giving him a more deep roster where he is not feeling that pressure is going to be so huge for him. So I have the lines that I would create with our new Marner line on the top line with Raymond and Larkin. And we're going to think about how much deeper this team is from the team this year, okay? On your second line, you're going to be rolling out Marco Kasper, DeBrincat, and Kane. Same thing. They're going to be better because Kasper is going to have another year of development. And then you're going to go to your third line, where you're hopefully going to have Dmitry Belichnikov from the KHL, Andrew Kopp, and Nate Danielson. That's a pretty good third line, in my opinion, because Belichnikov's going to come over and he's going to be NHL ready. He's already played in pro hockey. He's going to be ready. And then you're throwing out a fourth line of Carter Mazur, Michael Rasmussen, and Vladimir Tarasenko. Like that's a pretty solid four lines. Like we're talking about Tarasenko being on the fourth line, getting limited minutes with Rasmussen, who's a very good fourth liner. I have a lot of faith in him. And then Carter Mazur, a kid who's gritty, who plays the game the right way. Like that's a really nice fourth line in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's where I like this idea makes me salivate. So a shout out to you for putting together those lines. If that actually happens, this is 100%. This is beyond a playoff team. This is the type of team, and this is where you'd have your offense pretty much set. This is where going into next year, you'd be counting on Edvinsson to take a leap, Johansson to take a leap, a more like a tactful veteran signing. I get it. If you sign Mitch Marner, it's not going to allow you to go after like a splash defenseman, but this is where you've got to do your due diligence and just find that diamond in the rough. And I've
You
given
got to find that
yeah.
$4.5 million
Yes.
type of guy, that mid-level, really nice veteran piece that doesn't jump off the table in his stats or anything, but really does the right things and plays the game the right way. And that's exactly what they need to be looking for if they go after Marner. And then you'd be looking at a decor, because I did that too, of ASP and Mo on the first line. I will not give it up. I think he's going to play on the first line with Mo, and I think Mo is going to help him so much by being that lockdown defender, and let him be him and let him grow and be that Lane Hudson type of offensive defenseman. You saw with Lane Hudson, they traded for a guy from the Preds last year to make sure that they could pair with him a really good lockdown defenseman, and was allowing him to grow and have this huge point season. So I think that's going to be really big to keep him with Mo. I do think that Simon Edvinsson and Albert Johansson have a really nice future together on the same line. I do see it if you want to move Johansson to the third line with who will be Sherratt. I get that, but I'd rather bring in another defenseman to play with Sherratt. I trust Edvinsson and Johansson together. I would love to bring in that third defenseman to play with Sherratt, and then you have Gustafsson as your scratch defenseman and Hull. I think that's a pretty good decor. It's better than it was last year, in my opinion. It's not a huge jump, but I think there's a jump there.
There's a lot of value that can be given for just that veteran defenseman, even if he's on your third line. I mean, I look at, and I understand he was hurt for most of the year. I always bring up Alec Martinez. I bring up somebody like Ian Cole, for example. And I'm not saying they're obviously, well, Alec Martinez actually is. Yeah, right. Yeah, guys like that. And Alex Martinez actually is available, but he's getting like really long in the tooth. But somebody like that, somebody who just is a pro's pro and just blocks shots and is technically sound and just puts his body on the line. That's what you need.
He can play on the PK. Because ASP is not going to play on the PK.
No,
like I mean, let's be real about it. ASP is not going to play on the PK. So bring in a veteran defenseman who can play on the PK, who can play really good defense, and just help this team become better and embark some real veteran leadership onto these kids.
And that's where, if I'm looking at the potential decor for next year, I still don't see this Red Wings defense being great per se, or maybe even top half of the bottom half of the league, if that makes sense. But that's where you would probably have you would definitely have on paper an elite offense. If you bring in Mitch Marner and you don't really lose anybody because it's a free agency thing besides JT Compher and who the F cares, and you bring up some guys from just some of the prospects and they turn out to be good, and then Marco Kasper takes a leap, that's a great offense.
Yeah, I agree, and I excuse me. I think that this is a good jump in terms of where I would be happy with, because the big issues with this team was down the stretch. You had that line of Mott, Smith, and whoever Bergeron, whoever they decide to throw over there. That line sucks.
No,
that's not an NHL line. Like seriously,
yeah,
they are awful. They're net negative most of the time, and you just can't have that on your roster. Like we're talking about what I have the setup right now. Rasmussen is your fourth line center. Like that's what he is the absolute bottom of the barrel for players on this team. He is still a very quality player, but he should be on your fourth line, giving you big fourth line minutes. That's where this team just has so many guys playing above their role, and that's the issue.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You're asking too much of a certain players. I mean, even the rookies to some extent, because nobody is going to say anything bad about like when we talk about positives for this season. Marco Kasper, certainly a positive. Albert Johansson, positive. Simon Edvinsson, positive. If you want to parlay that into Alex DeBrincat, positive. 36 goals, you couldn't ask for more.
Soderblom, positive.
I mean, Soderblom, honestly, all I really need from him next year is to play more games. If he is what he is right now, he's a positive on this team. But that's where we love what the rookies did, but there was always going to be a ceiling to how they produced this year. I expect all of them to grow, but we were counting on if this team were to make the playoffs with how many deficiencies they had, we needed Marco Kasper to be a super rookie instead of a damn good one, which he was a damn good one. But that's too much to put on him. That's too much to put on Albert Johansson to be, you know what, rookie year, you're going with Cider and you're going to thrive. Too much asked of players who just aren't that or not that yet. And that's where the Mitch Marner thing. It's a ripple effect. It makes everything easier for everyone else.
Yeah, it does. And hopefully this wouldn't be an easy move, but it'd be the good move, is that if Steve Yzerman could call up Trey Sweeney over at the Boston Bruins and look into David Pastrnak. They went full rebuild mode this trade deadline. They traded off almost every key piece that they had to go for a younger core, and I'm curious if they are going to be shopping him this offseason. That is definitely on the table, in my opinion. And I just want to go through, what do we think we're going to have to give up for a guy like David Pastrnak? Because that's going to be a package.
Yeah. All right. So this is, I think David, he had his same old 100-point season, like ho-hum. He did what he does. But the Bruins are awful. They're done. They're cooked. They took the biggest step back of any team in the NHL. David Pastrnak really does them no good moving forward because he's going to be great, but the team around him just blows right now. If we're talking about what the Red Wings would give up, I'll tell you one guy that I would potentially package, and a lot of people aren't going to like it. Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond is in the package, in my opinion. I'm not saying that it's ideal. You try for something less than. You try for more prospects. But if they're asking for Lucas Raymond, I would probably do it as part of the package.
Lucas Raymond, Kasper, a first rounder. You know what it costs?
Spenny just asked me Lucas Raymond, Kasper, and a first rounder. I would probably say Lucas Raymond, Danielson, and a first rounder for Pasta.
Yeah, I don't think you have to give up both. I don't.
Raymond in a first rounder.
Ooh, Sean Beligian, ASP, Lucas Raymond, and a first rounder. I know you're not doing it.
Those are my two favorite players. Fuck that.
But I would give up Raymond, Danielson, and a first rounder for a David Pastrnak. And I know that that's a lot, but at the end of the day, we need somebody like Pasta. It just is what it is. He's young. He's actually pretty cheap, I think, moving forward. Only $11 million. I think he's under contract for 5 or 6 more years. Again, not the most ideal thing in the world, but this is David Pastrnak. This isn't – you got to pay for quality.
I know you got to pay for quality, and he is a dude. I just don't know. Giving up – Lucas Raymond still has a ceiling that's still –
I know.
Extremely high. I don't know if you can give up Lucas Raymond in that deal. Honestly, I really don't. I'm trying to be as unbiased as humanly possible right now because I love Lucas Raymond. I just don't think that they would do it.
And
I think that he's untouchable. I think your untouchables are Cider, Edmondson, Raymond, and that's it. And Kosa, I don't think Kosa's. I think Augustine's off limits, and I think ASP is off limits. Other than that, I think that's weird. I think Kasper's not off limits. I think Kasper's a whole lot more likely to get traded in this deal than Raymond.
I mean, shoot, if sign me up, and no disrespect to Kasper whatsoever, but sign me up. I wouldn't.
I think it'd be Kasper, Danielson, a first, and then maybe one other player.
And honestly,
I think that's about
I would rather take your deal than mine. My thing is more with Pasta. He's what the Red Wings need. He's that elite player, multiple 100-point seasons. And with Raymond, I was very, very disappointed in his 5-on-5 output and the way he ended the season. And when we're talking about just a potentially 12-point regression, I think everything's got to be on the table. But I would much rather your deal be more realistic than mine because I would love to.
Because the deal that comes to mind that I'm kind of basing this off of is the Brady Tkachuk Jonathan Huberdeau deal a couple of years ago, where they kind of did a 1-for-1 swap on each other with a couple extra prospect with Huberdeau, and if that's the value that you're asking for, I don't think the Wings can necessarily match that because I think if you're trading Raymond, I don't think you're giving up a first. I think you're giving up another low-level prospect, and you're not giving up any draft picks.
All
I
right.
think that
Fair enough.
Raymond has a little bit more value than what a lot of people would like say right now as the season's like just ended and he's playing not his best hockey. But I think that he has like a very high price tag out there. I mean, he's still going to put up around a point per game. He's 23. Like, he's 23. Like, he hasn't even touched his prime yet. And that's where this is so difficult. But this is the conversation we're going to have all off season. Like, there's going to have to be someone that we like and we care, like, don't want to see go. Who goes? Yep. Like, that's just how it is. Like,
I hope that I'm wrong. I would love Lucas Raymond on this team. We all know that.
I think you're handcuffing yourself. Like, you're doing 2 steps forward to do 1 step back. Like, you're not really making that huge move because you're losing a big piece of your future. Well, like, that's where, like, I don't know if this move would really take us to the next level because you're taking away a high-level line mate for Pastrnak. Like, Pastrnak would play with Raymond. Well, and it would be Raymond, Larkin, and Pastrnak.
Here's where I think we can kumbaya. I would rather acquire Marner and pay him a little bit more than trade for Pasta.
I agree with that.
Fair enough.
100%.
Is that a show?
Yes, that is a show. Thank you so much for tuning in to Woodward Wings. I am Justice Satawa. That's my man, Flannel Sam. We got you for all your Wings coverage that you could possibly need going into this long offseason of figuring out what the hell Steve Yzerman's going to do. But we will catch you next Saturday at 10 a.m. Thank you so much. Peace.